The joy of a son's return quickly turns to fear as a mysterious note appears, saying, "Do not choose." After an identical man suddenly appears claiming to be him. Whispers of witchcraft ripple through the crowd, and even the moonlight feels colder when old secrets stir in the hills, drawing the village toward a place better left untouched. By midnight, the question is no longer which of them is real, but what will happen if the wrong one stays. The sun was already low when Musa arrived in Odi village. His bag hung over his shoulder, dusty from the long road. Children ran behind him, shouting, "Musa is back. Musa is back from the city." His mother, Mama Kanda, dropped the basket of yams she was carrying and ran to him, wrapping him in a tight hug. Tears streamed down her face. The air was filled with excitement. Neighbors came from every corner, clapping him on the back, asking questions about the city, offering roasted maize and palm wine. Musa smiled at everyone, telling them he was glad to be home after 4 long years. That evening, the elders invited him to sit at the village square. They wanted to hear about the things he had seen in the city, the work he had done, the people he had met. Musa told them about driving a bus through crowded streets, about tall buildings that touched the clouds, about markets that stayed open even after midnight. Everyone laughed and listened, happy to see their own son returned. By the time night fell, Odi village felt alive with celebration. Musa slept in his old room, under the same roof he had grown up under. But deep in the forest beyond the last hut, a dog barked wildly at the darkness. The sound carried across the sleeping village, then stopped suddenly. The next day, just before sunset, a figure appeared on the same road Musa had taken. It was another man. He carried a dusty bag over his shoulder. Children ran ahead of him, shouting, "Musa is back. Musa is back from the city." Mama Kanda, hearing the noise, stepped outside. She froze when she saw the man. Because it was Musa. Musa stood frozen in the middle of the road, his chest rising and falling fast. The man walking towards him had the same broad shoulders, the same scar on his chin from the time he fell from a mango tree. Even his smile looked the same, the smile that made his eyes narrow like a cat's. The villagers gathered quickly, whispering and looking from one Musa to the other. "What is this?" old Baba Tofa asked. "Which of you is our Musa?" "I am," said the first Musa, pointing to himself. "I came home yesterday. You all welcomed me." "I am," said the second Musa, dropping his bag on the ground. "I left the city last week. This is my home." Mama Kanda's hands shook. She looked from one to the other, her lips trembling. "Musa," she whispered, "what is happening?" The two men stared at each other, breathing heavily. Finally, the first Musa said, "This man is an impostor. Don't be fooled. I have been here since yesterday. Ask anyone." The second Musa frowned. "I am no impostor. I have the letter I sent last month to tell you I was coming. Look." He pulled a folded paper from his pocket and handed it to Baba Tofa. The old man read it slowly. "It's in Musa's handwriting," he said. Whispers turned into arguments. Some villagers pointed at the first Musa, others at the second. The sun slid lower in the sky, painting everything in gold and shadow. Then the chief arrived. He listened quietly to both sides, then said in a deep voice, "Both of you will sleep here tonight, in the meeting hut. Tomorrow morning, we will find the truth." But as the night grew darker, not everyone was sure the morning would come the way they expected. That night, the meeting hut was lit by a single kerosene lamp. The two Musas sat on opposite sides, the flickering light throwing strange shadows on their faces. Outside, the crickets sang, but inside there was only tense silence. Chief Dogo sat between them, his staff resting on his knees. "I will ask each of you the same questions," he said. "The answers will tell us who is who." He began with small things, the name of Musa's first school, the name of his best friend in childhood, the song Mama Kanda used to sing when he was sick. Both men answered without hesitation, and every answer was the same. The chief's brow furrowed. "Tell me what happened the day you left for the city." Both men spoke in turn, describing how they had taken the old bus from Odi to Zuba, how the road was muddy, how Momakanda cried the whole morning. They even remembered the same man who sold roasted groundnuts at the roadside. The chief sighed. "This is strange indeed." Momakanda sat in the corner, clutching her wrapper. Her eyes moved from one face to the other. Every time she looked, her heart whispered that both were her son, and yet it could not be. When midnight came, Chief Dogo stood. "We will rest now. At sunrise, we will try again." The lamp was turned down. The two Musas lay on separate mats. The chief dozed lightly in his chair. But around the third hour of the night, Momakanda, who could not sleep, heard something. A soft sound. She leaned closer to the door of the hut. One of the Musas was whispering, and the words were not in any language she knew. By dawn, the air in Odi village was heavy. People gathered outside the meeting hut, their faces filled with curiosity and fear. The rooster's crow seemed quieter than usual, as if even it was waiting for what would happen next. Inside, the chief asked more questions. This time he tried trick questions, things no one could possibly remember the same way. But again, both Musas gave identical answers. Frustrated, the chief decided to test them with something physical. "Take off your shirts," he ordered. "Let us see the marks on your bodies." The first Musa pulled off his shirt. There was the familiar small burn mark near his left shoulder, from the time hot porridge spilled on him as a child. The second Musa removed his shirt. The exact same mark was there, in the exact same place. Gasps filled the hut. Momakanda's knees went weak. "This is witchcraft," she whispered. The chief looked troubled. "I don't believe in witchcraft, but I believe in my eyes. And my eyes see two Musas." Suddenly, a shout came from outside. A young boy ran into the hut, panting. "Chief! Come! Come quickly!" Everyone followed the boy to the edge of the village. There, lying in the dust, was Musa's old city bag, the same one both men had carried. The strange thing was that it was torn wide open, and inside there was nothing except a small piece of paper with 3 words written in red. "Do not choose." The crowd stood around the torn bag, staring at the small paper as if it might bite. Chief Dogo bent down and picked it up, turning it over in his hand. There was no other writing, no signature, just those 3 words, "Do not choose." "What does it mean?" whispered Momakanda, her voice trembling. No one answered. Even the birds in the nearby mango trees seemed to have gone silent. The chief looked at both Musas. "Do either of you know what this is?" They shook their heads at the same time. "Did you write this?" the chief asked again, his voice sharper. "No," said the first Musa. "No," said the second. The chief rubbed his beard. "Strange. Very strange." He slid the paper into his pocket. "Until we understand this, neither of you will leave the village square. You will be washed." The villagers were murmuring as they walked back. Some believed the second Musa was a trickster. Others whispered that both men were in danger from something no one could see. That night, Momakanda sat by the fire, holding her head in her hands. Her heart was heavy. She had waited 4 years to see her son, and now she had 2, and might lose them both. From the corner of her eye, she saw a shadow move across the doorway. When she looked up, no one was there. But she could still hear footsteps, walking slowly away into the night. 2 guards were chosen to watch the Musas. They sat outside the small hut where the men were kept, playing ale seeds to keep themselves awake. The moon was bright, lighting the whole village. From inside the hut came the sound of breathing, 2 men, calm, almost asleep. Around midnight, one of the guards, Yaro, frowned. "Do you hear that?" His partner, Bola, tilted his head. Hear what? Listen, Yaro said. It was faint at first, a low hum, almost like singing. It was coming from inside the hut. The two guards stood and went to the door. They peeped through the small gap. The lamp inside was almost out, casting only a weak glow. One Musa was sitting up, his back to them. The sound was coming from him. But what made Yaro's blood run cold was not the singing. It was the shadow on the wall behind him. The shadow was not sitting like the man. It was standing. Yaro grabbed Bola's arm, but before he could speak, the humming stopped. The man lay back down as if nothing had happened. Neither guard said a word for the rest of the night. By morning, the whole village seemed uneasy. Word of the shadow had spread, though Yaro swore he never told anyone. Chief Dogo decided to bring in someone from outside the village to help. We need a mind that is not clouded by fear, he told the elders. He sent a runner to the nearby town to fetch Madam Ino, an old woman known for her sharp eyes and sharper tongue. She had solved many strange disputes before. When she arrived, she wasted no time. She walked around both Musas, looking them up and down. She asked them to walk, to speak, to pick up a calabash, to climb a stool. She touched their arms, felt their pulses, even looked at their fingernails. They are the same in every way, she said finally. But one of them is lying. And when I find the liar, I will make him wish he had never come here. She told the chief she would speak to each Musa alone, without anyone else. The first Musa went in. After 10 minutes, he came out looking calm. The second Musa went in. When he came out, his face was pale, and he would not look at anyone. Madam Ino smiled slightly. I know which one is real, she said. But I will not tell you yet. If I speak too soon, the danger will grow. The days passed slowly. Both Musa stayed in the hut, watched at all times. Madam Ino visited them every day but said little. Then one afternoon, a small child named Sod wandered into the hut while the guards were distracted. She looked at the two men and tilted her head. My mama says you are both my uncle, she said. Both men smiled. But I know the truth, Sod added, her voice serious. Because when I was a baby, you gave me something. She pointed at the first Musa. You gave me this. From her pocket, she pulled out a tiny carved bead. The first Musa blinked. Yes, he said. I carved it for you before I left for the city. The second Musa laughed softly. No, I did. That was the day before I left. You were crawling on the floor. Soda's eyes filled with tears. You both remember, but only one of you was there. She ran out of the hut crying. That night, Mama Kanda found the bead lying in front of her door. She was sure she had locked the door, but the lock was broken. The next morning, the chief woke to shouting in the square. The hut door was open. Inside, there was only one Musa. The other was gone. His mat was still there. His bag was still there. But the man himself had vanished, as if he had walked out into the air. The chief ordered the guards to search the whole village and the surrounding forest. They searched until the sun was high, but there was no trace, no footprints, no torn cloth, nothing. When the chief returned to the square, Madam Ino was standing there with her arms crossed. He is not far, she said. But when you find him, you will wish you had left him gone. The search lasted until evening. Every hunter, every able man, even some of the women joined. They checked the footpaths, the riverbank, the farms, and the thick forest where the palm trees grew close together. Nothing. By sunset, the chief called everyone back. The people gathered in the square, tired and worried. The first Musa sat on the mat inside the hut, his eyes fixed on the ground. Mama Kanda sat beside him. If you know where he went, tell us, she pleaded. This is not the way for brothers to act. I don't know, Musa said quietly. But I know he will come back. He didn't finish what he came for. Before she could ask more, a sharp whistle cut through the evening air. It came from the north path, the one that led to the old abandoned quarry. 2 hunters appeared, dragging someone between them. It was the missing Musa. His clothes were torn, his face scratched, and his eyes were wide open, but they didn't seem to see anything. They laid him down in the square. His breathing was slow, almost too slow. Madam Ino knelt beside him and touched his forehead. He has been somewhere very cold, she said. The chief frowned. Cold? This is dry season. There is no cold here. Madam Ino didn't answer. She leaned close to the man's ear and whispered something none of them could hear. Suddenly, his eyes rolled, and he gasped as if he had been underwater. He looked around wildly, then fixed his gaze on the first Musa. You should not be here, he said in a hoarse voice. You should not. His words trailed off. He slumped to the ground, unconscious. The crowd murmured nervously. The chief ordered him to be taken to the hut again, this time with a stronger lock and more guards. But that night, the guards swore they saw his shadow moving on the wall, even though he lay perfectly still. The next day, Madam Ino gathered the elders. This is no simple matter of a man pretending to be another. Something has followed him, maybe followed both of them, from the city. What kind of thing? Bobatofa asked. One that does not care about our rules, Madam Ino replied. One that feeds on choice. That is why the paper said do not choose. The elders shifted uncomfortably. They were not used to talk like this. Meanwhile, Mama Kanda decided she could not sit and wait. She went to the small hut alone, while the guards were fetching water. Inside, both Musas were awake. They were not looking at her, they were staring at each other, as if locked in a silent fight only they could see. Musa, she said, her voice breaking. Tell me the truth. Which one of you is my son? Both men turned to her at the same time and said, I am. She began to cry. But through her tears, she noticed something. The second Musa, the one who had disappeared, had dirt under his nails. Fresh, dark dirt. That night, Mama Kanda could not sleep. The image of the dirt-filled nails stayed in her mind. Where had he been digging? And why? She waited until the village was quiet. Then she took a small lamp and slipped out of her hut. She went to the north path, to the direction the hunters had come from. The moon was high, but the shadows of the trees still made the path dark. After a while, she reached the quarry.
Stay or let them part, with open arms let go of heart. For those who shine will find their way, while we grow strong with every day.